I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Now, here's another reason why you just can never appease Donald Trump and why you need to confront Donald Trump. You need to confront these wannabe authoritarians and you need to call them out in real time and not let them get away with their disinformation. So you remember Dr. Deborah Birx. She was an esteemed scientist until she sat there and stood there during the coronavirus task force when Donald Trump told America to inject themselves with bleach. And she basically became an apologist for him and covered for all the disinfo that he was spreading during those heinous press conferences that he was holding. Well, her entire career has now been destroyed because of Donald Trump. And here's what Donald Trump, though, said about her randomly this week. He just wrote this on his social media platform just before. He goes, "One of the greatest privileges I had as president was firing Deborah Birx." He doesn't even call her doctor. Deborah Birx. "The only thing she had going was nice scarves. I remember so well when she was lecturing the American people not to leave their homes for Thanksgiving, and then she traveled hundreds of miles to visit her family, who incredibly turned her into the police. The only one who thought highly of her was herself." And so again, he lies about everything in this post, including the fact that he fired her. He absolutely did not fire her. She served until January 20th of 2021. That's when she left on her own accord. And she was actually sitting there apologizing for all of Donald Trump's, not just apologizing, covering up for all of Donald Trump's disinformation as he spread the injecting the bleach and COVID's going to go away, you'll see, like a miracle. And she went on networks and she said things like, "Oh, he's really brilliant and he's really smart. He goes through the stats perfectly. I'm so impressed by him." And she covered for him when she could have called him out, when she could have stood up the way Dr. Fauci was. She was the one who was standing up. And let me just give you some background on Dr. Birx, just so you know how esteemed she was prior to being part of this Trump coronavirus task force, which was really the how do you spread coronavirus task force and kill millions of people task force, because before then, she specialized in HIV/AIDS immunology, vaccine research, and global health. In 2014, she oversaw the implementation of Obama's emergency plan for AIDS relief program in 65 countries. And from 2014 to 2020, Dr. Birx was the United States Global AIDS Coordinator under Obama, and then before that, Donald Trump. But then she became part of this coronavirus White House task force, and it was during then where she helped Donald Trump spread this disinformation. And here is what she gets. These are her just desserts by not standing up to Donald Trump. Her entire career has become an utter disgrace. She's become a laughingstock of the entire scientific community. She's hated, and it's sad, but she did a lot of bad things while she was in that position. She really sold herself out to Donald Trump and her incredible esteemed background just to appease Donald Trump. And we see the dangers of appeasement right here. And so you got that statement by Donald Trump there. She's not been able to get any jobs at all since she's left the White House in any meaningful role. Well, she worked at Active Pure Technology as a chief medical and science advisor, but obviously the Biden administration did not want to hire her after the damage that she did. Here, you may remember this, but we had a MeidasTouch podcast back in 2021. And it was a podcast that I liked a lot, that you may remember, where we had Dr. Eric Feigelding on the show. And here's what he said. We talked about her, and I think he made this great point. And he was like, look, you need someone who's going to stand up and not spread this disinformation. Here, let's play this clip again just to remind you of it when we covered this back over a year ago. Play the clip.
Someone else I want to talk to you about is Dr. Birx, who has become a very controversial figure, worked in the Trump administration right alongside Dr. Fauci. We saw her going out there just showering ridiculous praise on Donald Trump about how he's really in the weeds on the data.
He's been so attentive to the scientific literature and the details and the data. And I think his ability to analyze and integrate data that comes out of his long history in business is really been a real benefit during these discussions about medical issues.
What do we make of Dr. Birx's legacy and what she's doing now? And what's the perception in the scientific community?
Well, she certainly wasn't going to get a job in the Biden administration after flattering Trump. I think her silence there when remember the inject bleach, the day he was also pushing all that nonsense, and she just sat there silently, just looking at herself, weeping. Yeah. It is just so telling of who she is. She is exactly the opposite of what I was trying to say. We need more whistleblowers, not pride swallowers, right? She's one of those, I swallow my pride to protect this crazy, maniacal pandemicide of a president rather than actually tell the truth. It's so disgusting. But I guess maybe she was trying to use some honey to get, I guess she was maybe deluded and maybe he'll change. Maybe if I flatter him enough, he'll change and listen to me. I think maybe that was her approach, but clearly not in this, Trump administration.
It's one thing to flatter the guy. It's another thing to outright lie to the American people about a contagious virus that you're supposed to be the source of information about, right? That's the crazy part to me. You could flatter him to say, hey, if I say nice things about the guy, maybe I'm the smart person in the room and I'll be able to dictate policy. But it seems like she was working against the interests of the American people in that way.
Yeah, and for her loyalty to Trump, for her obsequiousness for Trump, you have on January 25th, 2023, Donald Trump sending out this message on his social media, misogynistic, hateful message too, saying that the only thing good about her was her scarves. I mean, just ridiculous things, not calling her doctor, not showing any respect for her and calling her out and trying to humiliate her. And what she could have done then, what she should have done then, frankly, is what Judge Donald Middlebrooks did last week. When Judge Donald Middlebrooks stood up to Donald Trump and said, you're filing frivolous lawsuits, I'm sanctioning you for $1 million. Imagine back then when Donald Trump was spreading disinformation, when she took the podium, if she said, look, we need to be safe, COVID is for real, this is a lie, this is disinformation, or she just resigned and said, I'm not standing for this, we need to take this seriously. Think about how she would have been respected for that. And here's how Donald Trump repays her after all of that. But that's what you get if you don't stand up to these authoritarians. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit the subscribe button. We're on our way to 1 million subscribers thanks to your incredible support. Also, check us out at patreon.com/MeidasTouch, patreon.com/MeidasTouch. You will love the exclusive content we have on Patreon, but most importantly, help grow this independent media platform. We don't have any outside investors, so we rely on your great support. Until next time, I'm Ben Meiselas.
Our blue wall stopped the red wave and election deniers got denied election. That's why we're celebrating with the new Democracy Prevails team. We've got lots of work to do, but we should all be proud that when democracy was tested, democracy prevailed. You've earned this. Don't wait. Get yours right now at store.meidastouch.com. That's store.meidastouch.com.